Yeah. Dead weight.
Imagine you're just vibing on IG Live, showing love to your fans when out of nowhere bullets start flying in your direction. That's the kind of chaos some rappers have had to deal with, dodging shots and barely escaping death, all while live streaming. It's a wild reality. One rapper who had a close call like this is Honeycomb Brazy.
Dead weight.
Back in November 2020, Brazy went to Montgomery, Alabama to pick up a Kobe Bryant jersey from someone. Montgomery is about 2 hours from where he's from, and he was just chilling outside a barbershop, parked up in the car with a few of his homies. He was having a good time showing off his new jersey to his fans on IG Live, just living in the moment. But out of nowhere, things took a sharp turn for the worse. Shots started going off.
Autograph Honeycomb Kobe Bryant jersey to the really size.
Yeah, man, it was too big, so I had to buy another one. I had to buy another one, man.
We need a big man. Whoever the big man stopping on nigga for real in the post for real, come get it, man.
Yeah, you gotta be shooting her like Kobe.
1 second, he's laughing and vibing, and the next, the screen goes black as gunshots ring out in the background. You can hear multiple rounds being fired off, and it's pure chaos.
Dead weight.
Luckily, no one got hit, but it was a close call. After everything calmed down, Brazy released security footage from outside the barbershop to give a clearer picture of what went down. In the video, you see a gray SUV slowly sliding by before driving off. A few seconds later, Brazy's crew ducks behind the car and starts reaching for their guns, ready to defend themselves. Brazy later went back on live a few days after the incident to break it all down for his fans. He said the car got hit up pretty bad, but fortunately, everyone walked away unscathed.
That what you wore? The come deal with it. I'm on this side.
You want to keep it in the front?
Yeah. You got what you say, Byron?
That wasn't the only time Brazy's life went on the line while live streaming. A few months after that first incident, he was back in his hood hanging out with some of his boys. Everything was chill until out of nowhere, a loud bang erupted in the background.
Man, y'all already know, y'all know how money bag yo need that man. Y'all know what's going on, man. I want to have it, y'all. I swear to
Once again, his life was in danger while he was just trying to enjoy the moment with his fans. Now, Brazy's had millions of views on YouTube, but he's probably better known for his street life than his music. Growing up in Mobile, Alabama, Brazy had a rough childhood surrounded by crime and violence. His parents were constantly in and out of jail, so he spent a lot of time living with his grandparents. When Brazy was just 10 years old, he had his first run-in with the law. He and some of his friends broke into a factory, found a bunch of go-karts, and started racing them around until the police showed up and put an end to their fun. That little joyride landed him his first arrest, and he ended up on probation. Things just went downhill from there. Brazy admitted he never made it to high school, which frustrated his mom, but she didn't have much room to talk since she was in and out of jail herself. After things with his mom got rough, Brazy moved in with his aunt for a while, but it wasn't long before that living situation turned into a nightmare. He ended up shooting his own cousin during a dispute over some missing money.
Whoa, wait. You shot your cousin?
Yeah, yeah.
Like on accident?
Nah, like on purpose.
Apparently, his dad and cousin had some sort of business deal, but the cash disappeared. Brazy's dad was locked up at the time on a murder charge, so Brazy decided to step in and handle the situation himself. The shooting left his cousin paralyzed, which caused some major drama between Brazy and his aunt, understandably. But according to him, his cousin eventually recovered and can walk again, and somehow they patched things up. Brazy was only 13 when he shot his cousin, and right after the shooting, he went on the run. Of course, the law caught up with him, and that was the first time he got sent to prison. He didn't get out until he was 16 or 17. So basically, he spent a good chunk of his teenage years locked up. And if you thought things might get better for him after that, they didn't. Right after getting out, he got caught up in another mess and was arrested for first-degree robbery and attempted. Brazy swore up and down that he didn't commit this crime and that it was actually his friend Derek Det Thomas who pulled the trigger. According to police reports, the two of them were walking down the street when they approached a guy, had a quick chat, and then things took a dark turn. One of them pulled out a gun and shot the guy in the leg, and then they robbed him before taking off. Both Brazy and Det were identified as the robbers, but because Brazy had more of a reputation, the cops arrested him first. But the whole thing took a twist on the day Brazy was supposed to face the charges in court. That same day, Det was K'd over $5 dice game. A 40-year-old man named Anthony Williams shot him, and just like that, Det was out of the picture. Brazy ended up doing 4 years for the robbery, and when he finally got out, instead of turning over a new leaf, he went right back to his old ways. In February 2016, right after getting out of prison, Brazy allegedly K-worded a guy named Ladarius Stank Moore. Now, Stank wasn't just anybody, he was actually a childhood friend of Brazy's. Went down at the Woodlands apartments where Stank lived with his girlfriend. Stank showed up at their apartment and his girlfriend didn't want to let him in. He kicked the door in and found Brazy inside, who was there, supposedly just selling her weed. A fight broke out and someone pulled a gun. Stank ended up dead, and this earned Brazy a lot of enemies in the neighborhood because Stank was a well-loved figure in the community. Brazy went on the run for a while, but it wasn't long before he got caught and charged with the Surprisingly, he managed to beat the case, but he spent over a year in jail fighting it. While he was locked up, Brazy got into all kinds of trouble, getting into fights left and right. He even admitted to stabbing 3 people in one day.
Hell yeah, I stabbed 3 one day.
Despite all the chaos, he had some weird family bonding time because he ended up sharing a cell with his dad, who was still serving time for. It's crazy. Brazy and his dad have the same first name but different last names, so the jail staff didn't even realize they were related. After somehow getting the charge overturned, Brazy hit the streets again, but the drama wasn't over. Stank's turned his own hood against him. A lot of people he grew up with now saw him as the enemy. Once he got out, Brazy didn't even have time to catch his breath before he found himself dodging bullets again. He was shot several times, and one of the bullets hit him in the head, putting him in a coma for a week. The doctors didn't think he'd ever walk again, but Brazy pulled through. A few months later, he was back on the streets, determined to get revenge on the people who almost killed him. It was around this time that Brazy decided to take rap more seriously. He started booking studio time and focusing more on his music. In June 2018, Brazy dropped a track called Freestyle and it blew up almost overnight. The song went viral and suddenly everyone was talking about him. It was a big moment that really put him on the radar as one of the hottest young rappers coming out of the South. Before long, his buzz caught the attention of Rap-A-Lot Records and he ended up landing a deal. Things were finally looking up for Brazy. It seemed like he was on the verge of leaving the street life behind for good. But as life often goes, just when things were going right, something pulled him back down. In February 2020, Brazy found himself back behind bars after violating his probation. Now, this wasn't the first time he had trouble with the law. Back in 2016, he was arrested on gun charges and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Luckily for him, the sentence got reduced and he only had to serve 18 months, followed by 5 more years on probation. Fast forward to January 2020, his parole officer filed a motion to revoke his probation, saying he had been caught with weed and a firearm. Brazy got locked up again, but this time things worked out in his favor. The court could not prove he was actually in possession of the gun or the marijuana, so the charges were dropped and he was let out. It seemed like he had dodged a bullet, quite literally in this case, but then tragedy struck in February of 2021. Brazy's grandparents, Layla and Tony Lewis, were brutally murdered in a horrific attack that shook the entire community. On February 17th, around 6:30 p.m., neighbors heard a series of gunshots ring out near Brazy's grandparents' home. Moments later, an explosion rocked the neighborhood and the house went up in flames.
Grandparents of a local rapper shot in, then their home set on fire. The grim details just revealed by emotional family members at the scene.
It took firefighters 3 hours to put out the fire, and when they finally did, the remains of 2 people were found inside. The victims were later confirmed to be Brazy's grandparents, and the whole thing was absolutely devastating.
Hila and Tony Lewis, and were the head of their families, and we've also learned that they are the grandparents of local rapper Honeycomb Brazy.
Witnesses said they heard over 100 gunshots before the house exploded, and it was clear this wasn't just some random act of violence. This was personal. Brazy wasn't even in the area at the time, so it seemed whoever did this wanted to hit him where it hurts the most by targeting his grandparents. After the news broke, Brazy took to Instagram to post a tribute to them, expressing his grief over the loss of the 2 people who meant the world to him. Layla and Tony were both in their 60s and beloved members of the community, so this was a huge loss for everyone who knew them. By this point in his life, Brazy had spent over a decade in and out of prison, and he was only in his late 20s. He'd been shot at least 8 times, and it was clear his ops weren't going to stop anytime soon. In fact, they'd given up on trying to take Brazy out directly and were now going after anyone close to him instead. His grandparents were just the latest tragic example of that. As wild as Brazy's life has been, he's not the only rapper who's found himself dodging bullets. Just look at what happened to Chicago rapper THF Lil Law. In August 2020, Lil Law was in the middle of shooting a music video when out of nowhere, gunfire erupted on West 44th Street and Princeton Ave. It was absolute chaos with bullets flying everywhere, but somehow nobody got hit. The Chicago police later collected 76 bullet casings from the scene, so it's honestly a miracle that everyone walked away unharmed. Word on the street was that Lil Law had made himself a target by dissing another Chicago rapper, Boss Top, in one of his songs. He dropped the line, "Steady smoking Boss Top," during the video shoot, which was a major sign of disrespect. In gang culture, smoking on a pack is slang for celebrating the death of an enemy, but here's the kicker. Boss Top, whose real name is Davis Tyree, is still very much alive. He's currently locked up, but that didn't stop his crew from taking offense to the diss. Apparently, Boss Top's homies weren't having it, and when they heard Lil Law spit that line, they decided to retaliate right then and there. What should have been a regular music video shoot turned into what must have felt like a full-on war zone for anyone nearby. The next rapper we gotta talk about is a classic case of clout chasing gone wrong. Chicago rapper PGF Muda found himself in a wild situation while on Instagram Live. This dude decided it'd be a good idea to call out his ops while literally standing on their block. Like seriously, what did he think was gonna happen? It's one thing to talk tough, but to actually go to the enemy's territory and then broadcast it live? That's a whole new level of reckless. Anyway, Muda's known for being wild and loud, so this wasn't really out of character for him. But sure enough, as he's running his mouth, shots start ringing out.
I see y'all tagging the ops. Almost got blew down on Marlon Games. What are you at? 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 Where you going? Where's you going?
Now, what did he expect? If you're on enemy's block, that's bound to happen. Luckily, it seems like he made it out of there okay, but let's just say that's a lesson learned in what not to do for some clout. Now, moving on to the next rapper, this one's a real roller coaster, Kodak Black. He's had not one, but 2 close calls, and it's honestly surprising he's still around. One time, Kodak randomly went live on Instagram and things got weird real fast. He was lying on the ground, mumbling to himself, looking super out of it, like he wasn't in the right headspace at all.
Let me tell you the truth, bro. This ain't even to me what you call, cause I just let me get on that. I know it's all that.
People in the comments were freaking out, saying stuff like "they laced bro" and asking why nobody was helping him. From the way it looked, folks thought he was about to pass out or worse. It was a scary moment. Then not long after that live, Kodak got arrested, which seemed to be connected to the whole situation. After he got out on bond, he had another meltdown on live where he went off after a fan told him he should have stayed in jail to sober up. You could see he was really struggling and a lot of people were concerned for him. Hopefully he's able to turn things around before it gets even darker for him. But that wasn't even Kodak's only brush with death. Back in April 2021, Kodak was in Tallahassee for the Culture Fest where he had a performance. After the show, he and his crew decided to stop at McDonald's to grab some food, but little did they know a bunch of cars had been tailing them the whole time. They pulled up to McDonald's, and Kodak went inside to pick up his order, but the people following him weren't about to let him go that easy. Right as Kodak stepped out of the McDonald's, they started firing shots.
Back over there, dude.
The whole thing was caught on camera by a fan nearby, and it's honestly a miracle Kodak made it out untouched. Unfortunately, his security guard was not as lucky and got hit in the leg. He was rushed to the hospital, but thankfully he survived. The day after the shooting, Kodak went live again, furious that people had tried to take him out. He even told the shooters if they really wanted him gone, they should have aimed for the car next time.
If you know, that's Yak Wilt right there. If you know trying to plan something, homie, you gonna hit the wheel, bro.
Now, when we talk about rappers who have had close calls, we can't forget about Chief Keef. His situation, though, wasn't exactly due to ops. It was more of a freak accident. Last year, during the 4th of July weekend, Chief Keef and his crew were chilling at his house shooting music videos and having some fun with fireworks. Everything was all good until Keef lit up one firework, and instead of going where it was supposed to, it flipped over and shot off in the wrong direction. Keef and his homies had to duck behind some cars to avoid getting hit, and while no one was injured, the firework did manage to smash the glass on Keef's front door. It could have been a lot worse, but Keef laughed it off and kept it moving. It was just one of those wild moments that you'd expect from someone like him. But Chief Keef isn't the only rapper from Chicago who's had a close call on live. Another one is Spider D, a rapper from the Wild Hundreds. Back in May 2020, Spider D went viral after a crazy incident where he was live on IG. He was outside talking about some new music he was planning to drop when, out of nowhere, he switched topics and started talking about his ops. Almost as if on cue you could hear a car pull up and the next thing you know, shots are fired.
They know, hey, you know what they say about with the hoodie on in the summertime on BD. He ain't out here trying to play. BD in. Right up.
Rumor has it that the guy behind the shooting was someone named Jixski from a GD set, and there's even video evidence of the two beefing with each other on Instagram Live before. Luckily, Spider D wasn't hit, and he even downplayed the whole situation later on. In early 2022, he talked about it and said it was weak and that he's used to stuff like that.
I got out there that video because that would have scared my life, Spider.
Yeah, hell yeah, I went back out there. Yeah, for sure. That was the weakest. That was some, out of what I done been through in my life, that was one recorded as one of the weakest.
Now let's talk about Quando Rondo. This one's wild because Quando and his crew were just chilling at a gas station in Los Angeles when things took a bad turn real quick. Out of nowhere, 3 dudes pulled up and started shooting at them. Early reports were saying Quando got hit and that rumor spread fast, but it turns out he actually managed to dodge the bullets. Unfortunately, his close friend known as Lil Bav wasn't so lucky. Lil Bav ended up getting hit, and even though he was rushed to the hospital, he didn't make it. It's a tragedy that shook up Quando's whole crew. When the news first broke, people were going crazy thinking Quando had been shot and maybe even killed. Rumors were flying left and right, but his aunt jumped on social media to clear things up, letting everyone know that he was okay. Then a video started making the rounds online showing Quando at the scene screaming in pure agony where the cops pulled his homie out of the black truck they had been riding in. According to the police, it looked like a straight-up targeted hit. Whoever did it knew exactly who they were coming for.
They were pumping gas, and it looks like they probably finished pumping gas, and the suspects approached from the alley, got out of the car, and started shooting at those victims.
But now let's shift gears to talk about Indian Red Boy. He was another rapper and also a gang member from California linked with the Inglewood Bloods. His name started buzzing after he got caught up in some serious beef with the Rolling 60 Crips. This all started when someone from the Inglewood Bloods, a guy named Capone, went and defaced Nipsey Hussle's mural, disrespecting the late rapper's legacy by tagging his own name over Nipsey's. It was a bold and reckless move, and you can imagine how Nipsey's people reacted. They didn't take it lightly. In fact, they made a video basically warning the Bloods, telling them if they didn't handle Capone for what he did, the Crips were going to take matters into their own hands.
Put this baby Capone. Alright, I bet you gonna change your name today. I bet you that. Y'all need to beat right now before the homies mount up and come do some dumb.
Indian Red Boy, being tight with Capone, decided to step into the beef. He wasn't just laying low though, he actually went on to diss the Rolling 60s, backing up Capone's actions. This only made things worse. Not long after all this drama, Indian Red Boy was on Instagram Live, chilling in his car and laughing with Capone like nothing was wrong. But suddenly gunshots rang out in the background, catching everyone off guard. In the live stream, you can see Indian Red Boy gasping for air, clearly fighting for his life. Capone, who's on the other end of the call, starts asking where Red Boy is, trying to figure out his location. Red Boy could barely speak but managed to say Hawthorne before he passed away right there on live. The whole situation left people stunned, and a lot of folks started assuming this was payback for the Nipsey mural disrespect. The timing and everything just made it seem like the Rolling 60s were getting revenge. But then, other stories started floating around saying that maybe it wasn't about Nipsey at all. Some people were claiming Indian Red Boy had actually switched sides, and that's why he was targeted.